Hi, it's John, and welcome back to my series of Jon Builds Stuff. The next few episodes, I'm going to be looking at MDF kits, and specifically those made by Sarissa Precision. I've built a few over the years and painted a few, some of which I'm happy with, some of which I'm not so happy with, but they'll do for the tabletop. I was looking around for advice on how to paint kits better and certainly quicker. Now, Gary Faulkner, who is the designer behind the Sarissa Precision kits, has just brought out a book on a guide to making and painting laser cut MDF model kits, which is rather handy. And I have to say, it's a good book. Lots of really good ideas, lots of good tips in there. So I thought what I'd do was, I've got a few kits kicking around already at home. I thought I'd build up a few of them using the tips from Gary's book and show you here, just to show you how actually easy it is to produce some really rather nice kits. The first one I've chosen is a small kit. It's only A5 size piece of MDF called the Little Shed of Dreams. Came free, I think, last year with some entry competition I did. The first thing I did was to get the kit out, have a look at it, and work out what I can paint while it's still fixed in, what might need to be painted separately, and what needs to be the same colour. In this case, there's a number of parts that are going to be the outside and be painted the same. Now, I didn't have the rattle cans of paint that Gary recommends in the book. What I do have, though, is an airbrush. So I was able to spray these first parts with a light sort of pine colour brown to give them my base colour, a couple of coats of airbrush. The second common parts were the roof and the base of the bike frame. So I put these down, gave them a blast with some black. Unfortunately, the bike kept moving, so eventually I stuck it down with a bit of blue tack. But these went over with a matte black colour, which formed the base colour for the bike and for the roof panels. For the inside, I wanted a cream colour, so once the outside had dried, switch back to the panels, and again, airbrush over with a sort of a light creamy colour, just to give you the basics. So what I did next before finishing off the inside was to add a couple of miniature posters to give a bit of detail inside the shed. I should really have done this after I'd weathered the inside of the building, but hey, lessons to be learned for next time. I created the posters using PowerPoint and printing out something on an inkjet printer. It is worth testing that the glue you're going to use doesn't damage the printer. I did a small test print here just to make sure everything was okay, and my glue was fine, but I have certainly found things like super glue can bleed through the paper and can cause your ink to run, so always worth a quick test first. We're now going to add some detail to these flat panels to make them look more 3D. Ideally, if you've got a water-based pen brush, these are great for doing these because you can smudge them slightly. I didn't, so I just had to use a brown Sharpie pen that I had kicking around. And what I'm doing here is just drawing a line just at the top edge of each plank to show the shadows where these shiplap planks would overlap. As you can see, it looks okay. It is a bit too perfect, but as I said at the start, we're in lockdown. I happen to have a brown pen around, and that'll do for now. Next phase then is to put a lighter colour just above this brown one, which shows the sort of the edge of the shiplap timber that would be sticking out. At this point, I've just got some light brown paint. The beauty of this is, because it's paint, I can smudge it afterwards, just so I lose a bit of the highlight on the edge. It looks a little bit more natural. And then through the magic of video editing, ta-da, all pieces done. The next stage was to add a little bit of weathering to the inside. I've used a slightly darker cream here. I mixed up just some acrylic paints, dabbing the brush around the outside to try and get a bit of darkness into the corners. Next up is the roof. What I'm using here is dry brushing again, but I'm using a series of increasingly light colours of grey in order to colour the roof. It's not completely even, deliberately, although what I am doing is trying to do a little bit of highlight on the edges just to make it stand out. Now we're into the construction phase. What you might be able to see here is I've put a bit of clear plastic sheet over the inside of the windows to give a window. It's actually a mistake. I should have matte sealed it first, but it'll do for the moment. I'm then fitting the rest of the kit together. Super glue is my preferred choice for MDF kits. Works well, holds pretty quickly. Yeah, you do sometimes glue your fingers to it, but then that's to be expected with super glue. And that's the base in, and you can see we've got the basic structure of the shed sorted. Now it's onto the roof. At this point, I suddenly realised the underside of the roof is quite clearly shows up and should have been painted with the asphalt colours. So, a quick pause, off to the asphalt colour paint, paint it up black, put some highlight around the edges, and then we can fit it on and it all works properly. Last thing I did here was add a bit of dark brown dry brushing around the corners that show up and across the bottom to ground it into the picture. Again, I could use the airbrush for this, but I have the dry brush out at the time. I've also gone up into the eaves to make them a little bit darker. The bike itself was quite a fiddly thing to do. It's absolutely tiny, and I realised before putting the side pieces on, the side parts exhaust, that I'd have to paint it first, otherwise you'd be able to see through the bike and see the exhaust from the other side. So I painted this up first, all the little parts on here, glued it together. Once it's glued in place, touch up a few little bits here and there, paint the saddle brown. It's quite a simple little bit, a few little bits of white on there to highlight it, and the bike is done. And here, on my high-tech revolving display panel, you can see the final part of it. And here is a nice still photograph taken outside in the glorious Easter sunshine, show what the final bit looked like. A couple of things I need to think about next time is when I do the test build to make sure the parts fit, is I look at where I would need to paint that's still going to show. Make sure that you do the windows, you glaze the windows after you put the matte spray on, otherwise you're going to get matte colour windows, which doesn't look half as good. But that's it, that's my first build. I hope you enjoyed it. I've got some interesting ideas for the next one, so I will see you next time.